Welcome back to another episode of Novelio. Today is Monday, June 14th, 2021. Before I get started in reading, I just want to apologize for the lack of posting episodes this weekend. It turned out to be a very, very busy weekend, all starting on Friday, where I received my very first COVID vaccination. So, I do hope you will continue to listen on and excuse me for the delay, but I am back today and about to continue with my reading of It Happened on Dufferin Terrace by Melanie Robertson-King. After a rest stop, she donned her boots, beret, coat, and mitts once more. Now it was time to hunt for Roger's present. Not knowing him all that well, save for a few encounters and chats after their disastrous initial meeting, finding a gift for him would be difficult. The plan was to go to Jonathan's. The trouble was, what was the ideal item? Shirt? Tie? Sweater? At least it had been easy to buy for Adam. She hoped he liked it. His father, on the other hand, was proving difficult to shop for. She wanted something personal, but not overly so. More relaxed wandering the streets of the old city on her own, Serenity left her accommodations. There was more than one way she could go to reach her destination. Across the road, a horse hitched to a brougham stood tethered to a post. Another one parked on the side street. At Rue de Trésor, the narrow lane heaved with artisans and shoppers. With a number of people milling about in the confined space, a claustrophobic person would not do well. Not that she was, but there were still way too many bodies for her liking. Since the pathway was overcrowded, she turned so that she faced the Price building. Shops bordered the pedestrianized lane to her right. A small church occupied the space on the left. Protected by a limestone wall topped with a wrought iron fence, the huts of the marketplace emerged as she approached the intersection. Maybe this would be a better spot to purchase a Christmas gift? Serenity walked to the far end of the complex behind City Hall. She meandered along the walkways between the small buildings, taking in a variety of products. When she stopped to adjust her purse strap, a tall man bumped into her. She ducked to avoid an elbow. Until now, nothing had spoken to her. In the grand scheme of things, browsing here might not have been such a good idea. Then she rounded the corner. One of the vendors had a gorgeous array of knitted goods spread out. The toques perched on polystyrene heads with scarves wound around the flexible necks, mittens and gauntlets adorned handforms. The only hat she was aware he owned was a trapper he wore on the evening out in their initial meeting, a red and black checkered pattern one line with fur. One of the partial mannequins displayed coordinating neckwear. Serenity ran her hands over the yarn. The quality was outstanding, making a thoughtful but not too intimate gift along with a set of flip-top gloves in the same buffalo check. "Could I get these gift-wrapped?" After a pause, the young girl answered, "No, sorry." Roger's unwrapped present lay in the bag. A fur-trimmed hat-scarf combination in the color of a male cardinal's red belly caught her eye, and she stroked the fur. Before leaving, she had his gift in the oversized shopping bag with the snood, as the vendor called her acquisition on top. On her way back to her quarters, Serenity stopped in La Boutique de Noël. Seasonal songs played from a speaker mounted above the shop's doors. The music followed her inside, courtesy of more speakers in the rafters. Everything Christmas imaginable, from floor to ceiling, and not a free space to be had on the shelves. Tree ornaments, fridge magnets, nutcrackers, stuffed animals, among other things, were on display. At the back of the specialty shop she found wrapping paper. 10 sheets were overkill. The Emporium also stocked gift boxes, but again in packages. As it was, Serenity accumulated enough extra stuff on her time on the road. Wistful over Christmases that never were during her formative years, she had to escape her colorful and cheerful surroundings before she broke down in a puddle of tears. She never shared the experiences of her childhood with anyone, not even her teachers. Starting now was not an option. Vision blurred from tear-filled eyes, she trampled back to the hotel. Why, when she never had a real family Christmas in her life, did she walk into that place? The receptionist waved when Serenity came into the lobby. The same young woman who revealed where the toy store was and the best route to take was still on duty. "How did your trip to Benjo work out for you?" "The size of your bag says yes." "This isn't from there." She adjusted her grip. Although none of the items were weighty on their own, Combined, they caused the cord handles to dig into her fingers. You didn't find what you liked? Been and back, just back from the market now. Ah, it is, how you say, a successful shop for you? Very, except for the gift wrapping. We can look after it for you, madame. Would you like to leave the largesse with us? A wave of relief washed over Serenity. She gathered her snood, then handed the rest of the parcel to the receptionist. Just one package, if possible. Yes. Once finished, someone will put it in your room? Wonderful. Thank you so much. Stacks of newspapers in both official languages were spread out on a table beside the check-in counter. Serenity selected a Quebec Chronicle Telegraph, rolled the broadsheet, and turned to the elevators. When she checked out at the end of her stay, she would ensure the girl received a tip. At the very least, mention her helpfulness to her manager or on TripAdvisor. After removing her coat and boots, Serenity dropped on the bed. She settled cross-legged with the newspaper arranged in front of her. As she slowly turned the pages, the phone rang in her room. The shrill sound startled her. About 6 rings shattered the silence before her heart slowed, and she got to the desk where the offending object resided. Hello, she said when she picked up the handset. Lane, Jonathan Drake here. I wanted to commend you on the thorough job you did for my firm. The head of the conglomerate calling her to thank her? Strange. I was just doing my... Nonsense. You did more than that. As you well know, I want to offer you a permanent position with Jonathan's here in Quebec-City. I'll match your current salary, give you 4 weeks vacation with pay right away. All benefits 100% covered by the company, plus a substantial sign-on bonus if you agree to come work for me. Was this him or his son playing a sick trick on her? Sir, I appreciate it, I do, but I need time to think. Picking up stakes in Toronto and moving here, I want to make sure I'm doing the right thing. Of course, I understand. Give it some thought for a few days. We can discuss things further over dinner one night before we leave our city. Fine. She hung up. What a stupid thing to say. She rang down to reception. Excuse me, Serenity Lane in room 325. The call that came through, did it come through the switchboard? Yes. Is something wrong? Can you tell me from where? All I can tell you, it was an area number. The line went dead. Whoever answered must have had to attend to something or someone downstairs. Local? Could have been legit. Very well could have been Jonathan Drake. Still, something about the exchange niggled at her. Did she phone the store here in town? What if the man called her from home? Even if Simon perpetrated the prank, he could have done so from Quebec City. Match her salary. Serenity doubted the man knew she drew in 6 figures annually. With the promotion offered by Thacker Price and Associates, while her remuneration continued in the same range, she would receive a substantial increase. At least she assumed she would. 4 weeks paid vacation to start. How appealing. It took 10 years to get that many from her present employer. Not that she used much of her annual leave. Work was her life, and she enjoyed her job. However, real estate in Toronto showed no signs of slowing down. If she pulled up stakes and relocated here, she could sell her condominium for double her original investment, if not more. Allow her to pay off her mortgage and invest in a house or apartment here, mortgage-free, or with only a small lien against the property. Someone impartial? That excluded her boss, the head of Jonathan's, and most importantly, Roger. If only she could talk to her parents, seek their advice. Nope. The windfall was all they would see. Bill Bradford? He did the consultation for the Toronto stores. No. Still too close to the situation. Damn! Why couldn't she think of someone? Probably because she didn't have any friends, intimate or otherwise. She was a loner and always had been. Never opened up to anyone. What about Melissa? Only 2 small problems. She worked for one of the stores in the retail chain and was Roger's sister. Maybe a walk out in the fresh air would help. When Serenity had her coat half on, the phone chirped. Was Jonathan Drake calling for an answer from her? Sweeten the pot? Hello, she said. Hi, Serenity, it's Roger. Meet me downstairs. I was just on my way out. She fumbled with the receiver and getting her free arm into the other sleeve. Oh, the disappointment in Roger's voice came through loud and clear. I'll be right down. She hung up and finished preparing for the outdoors. Did he have a 6th sense? No, she needed to talk to someone. The last thing she grabbed was her purse. She left her room. putting the crossbody bag strap over her shoulder. The lift opened on the ground floor. Roger's beaming face made her heart flutter. "I didn't expect to see you until Monday, Christmas Day," Serenity said when she exited the car. She had never experienced those feelings until he entered her life, not even as an adolescent in school. The sensation, while still foreign, was far from disagreeable. In fact, she quite liked it. With his arm around her shoulders, they stepped out into the cold. "Where are we going?" She moved her body close to his. "Not a long way on foot, that is." On the opposite side of Rue Saint-Louis, a white brougham hitched to a reddish-brown horse waited. The driver turned and waved to them. "We're going on a carriage ride?" They scurried across the street. The driver's bench, in addition to the interior, was red. A heart-shaped rear window rounded out the look. Helped in by the men, Serenity settled on the forward-facing seat covered with dense plaid throw. Roger climbed in beside her. An overweight fur rug was extracted from under the front bench and placed over their laps. "It will be cold when we start moving. You'll be appreciative of it." Next, he took the blanket off his horse and stowed the animal's protective covering at the back. "My name is Gaston, and you two are?" "Roger and Serenity," she said. "Ravi de vous rencontrer." He shook their hands and climbed into his seat. "Lovely to meet you. Vous voulez votre visite en français ou en anglais?" "English, please," Roger replied. Once they were ready to go, the coachman flicked the reins, and they lurched ahead. As they went along, the buggy swayed from side to side. The horses' shod hooves made hollow, clopping sounds. The sound was more pronounced on the cobble boulevards. They toured past the Christmas market, the Price building, and the only Presbyterian church in the city. All the time, their driver sat turned facing his passengers, paying little attention to the traffic, telling them about the places they passed. When they reached Rue Saint-Louis, the intersection was familiar to her. She walked here the last day of the meetings. Around the corner, another horse-drawn carriage parked next to the Esplanade. They stopped for a moment, and the two drivers conversed. An outdoor skating rink was set up on the green space, not as fancy as the one Serenity passed before, but its function was obvious. Beyond the granite gate, a wall of plywood plastered with posters concealed a length of the city's fortifications. A wooden pedestrian tunnel protected the walkway. Government buildings lined the street. The state provincial legislature stood on the right, and a newer, unattractive one on the opposite side of the road. Up here on the left is the drill hall, burnt down in 2008, but as you can see, reconstruction is coming along well. Murals covering the construction barrier depicted images of the building before and during the fire. Chapter 19. Chateau Frontenac, Quebec-City. Serenity woke early on the morning of December 24th. Jonathan Drake's job offer still niggled at her, believing his spiteful son could have concocted it. Sit back and when she accepted it, laugh when she found herself unemployed. Sidetracked by Roger's invitation to spend tomorrow with him and Adam, she forgot. After breakfast and showering, she decided to walk to Jonathan's. If he was not in the office, and being Sunday and Christmas Eve, he could very well be at home with his nearest and dearest. When she walked outdoors, her wet hair immediately froze, taking her back to the teen years when she left for school with her tresses dripping. How she didn't come down with pneumonia back then was a mystery, but somehow she maintained her health. She pulled her snood up over her frozen hair and carried forward. A frigid breeze coming off the water blew up over the cliff and sent shivers through her entire body. On the other side of Place d'Armes, Serenity made her way to the pedestrianized section of Rue de Trésor. The confined alley between the buildings sheltered her from the wind. Jonathan's was opening for trade when she arrived. She smiled at the workforce, several whom she dealt with during the store's audit. The top floor housed the offices, and she hurried through men's apparel to the elevator. When she stepped out, the corridor was in darkness. She moved towards the room designated for her while she performed the consultancy. From a legal standpoint, her actions questionable, but in this case, they were necessary. Serenity opened the door and hastened to the desk. The desktop computer was still there, and she pressed the power button. As the outdated machine booted, she prayed her login was still functional. Now their business had concluded, IT might have removed her from the network. After what seemed like forever, the sign-in screen eventually popped up. She sucked in a breath and entered her credentials. She exhaled once she got in. Now she could find out Jonathan Drake's address at the very least, his phone number. Computer espionage in Serenity was an oxymoron. She previously had access to the majority of the records in the database. With luck, the man's dossier would still be accessible to her. Bottom lip held in her teeth, she scanned through the menus until she found a heading which looked promising. When she clicked that pull down, presented with another, as did the others, before reaching the end of the maze. There, staring at her in the face, was the name, address, and other information she sought. If she could hack into their network this far, they needed to beef up their security, which was a high priority. Pertinent details scribbled into her planner. Serenity backed her way out of the system, closing tabs and windows behind her and finally powering down the PC. With the computer shut off, she jammed the book into her bag. All she had to do now was get off this floor without anyone seeing her. The stealth gods were with her. She was out of the office and back on the main floor, unseen. She smiled again at the employees and navigated through the much busier store and out on the street. When Serenity walked outside, snow fell in enormous fluffy flakes like those inside plastic globes. So much of the white stuff was in the air. The storefronts across the thoroughfare were just discernible, the shapes of the buildings obliterated. Phoning Jonathan Drake and asking if she could see him was far better than landing in at his home on Christmas Eve unannounced. That was plain rude. A phone call was less apt to raise suspicions. To do anything, she had to get inside out of the heavy snow. The best place would be her room. Back at the chateau Frontenac, Serenity pulled her planner out of her purse and flipped to the page where she scribbled down the man's details. The whole time she worked on the project, she never once had to contact him there. All communications went through the store either by phone, email, or fax. While she pondered what she would say to the man, she pulled out the map given to her. Incapable of finding Avenue Saint-Denis, she powered up her MacBook Air. Once signed in, she opened her browser and typed the street name along with Quebec-City into the search box. The man lived closer than she anticipated. Instead of turning right when on exiting the entryway, if she had turned left and walked to where it ended, she came to it. Now to place the call. She counted the rings until someone answered the phone. Finally, a woman's voice came on the line. Hi, I'm Serenity Lane. I want to speak with Jonathan Drake, if that's possible. The clunk of the receiver placed on a hard surface rattled in her ear. While she waited for the man to take her call, she paced around her room, nervous about the conversation. Drake here. Now she felt a fool for bothering him at his home. Still, she was in this deep as she might as well dig herself in the rest of the way. Hi, it's Serenity. I wonder if I could speak to you. I'm here. Go ahead. It would be better if we had this conversation in person. I hope you don't mind. Then you best come round. I'm at 34 Avenue Saint-Denis. Do you know where that is? I'll look on the computer and see you soon, she said, already knowing the location of his residence. Now that Serenity knew where he lived, she left the hotel holding the chart in front of her. She came to the route as indicated and was crestfallen when she turned the corner to a wall of rock. A set of wood stairs spanned upward, so she trudged up them. A concrete barrier with a rickety metal rail marked the end. If this was the correct street, the one to her right should be Rue de la Porte. She quickened her pace. The signpost was mounted behind the high curb opposite the narrow roadway. Knowing this was the right place, a sigh of happiness escaped Serenity's lips. Now how much farther before she reached his house? No homes were on the left side of the road. A quick consultation of the map showed it was all parkland attached to the La Citadelle. The first home with identifying signage over the door was number 2. He resided at 34. She still had a fair hike ahead of her. The man's home was an imposing brick mansion. The arched windows over the entrance suggested a church, or at least a manse in the past. Serenity marched to the door and rang the bell. A well-dressed, gray-haired woman, presumably his wife, answered. She wore stylish, wire-framed glasses and a string of pearls around her neck. A diamond ring, big enough to choke a large mammal, adorned the third finger of her left hand. Serenity swallowed hard and introduced herself. Before she crossed the threshold, she shook the snow off her coat and stamped her feet, so a mess didn't get tracked in with her. The woman opened a set of pocket doors on the right side of the opulent hallway and ushered her inside. My husband will be with you shortly. The passage closed with a thud, and Serenity was alone in the vast room. The substantial trim and access panels retained their original stain. A grand mahogany desk was the focal point of the room. A banker's lamp with a green shade illuminated the polished piece of furniture. The cord plugged into a floor outlet on one side. Bookcases outlined the room. One shelf, lighted from above, housed a liquor cabinet. An antique chaise sat under the window. She perched on the edge of the seat. Was she doing the proper thing? When the man entered, she lost the time to ponder the decision. "You wanted to speak with me, Elaine?" He ambled to the drinks cupboard, poured them each a scotch, and handed one to Serenity. "Yes, I did." She touched the glass to her lips. "Well, spit it out, woman. I don't have all day." "Well, you know your son and I didn't exactly get off on the right footing. I don't know how to say this, but I want to believe the deal was sincere and came from you. I don't want to find out son pulled a practical joke on me." The elder Drake's face reddened. "Well, I never. I'm sorry, but I had to ask. If I'm to give up my job, then I need to know it's legit." "I can assure you it's genuine. Are you accepting?" "Not yet. I'd still like a few more days." "Absolutely." Serenity stood to leave. Jonathan Drake rose at the same time, and she handed her glass back to him. "Goodbye. Thank you for seeing me on such short notice."